What's up, guys? It's your boy JD the Collector. We're here at Bear Sports Cards with EJ, aka Dynasty Mode.
What's going on, guys? How y'all doing? Thanks for tuning in.
Today we're gonna do a little shopping today. See what he's feeling, see what he's not. You ready?
Feeling a lot of things today. Let's go.
So EJ, just talk about how Dynasty Mode started.
Well, Dynasty Mode started actually as a means for me to fund my toy addiction. I'm a huge toy nut, very big into wrestling figures and Gundams and pretty much all toys that catches my eye at Targets and Walmarts. And I figured, hey, why not start my own ways of funding it? And a year later, after making my rounds in the wrestling figure industry, I decided to get back into cards. But I was lucky. I came in at the right time. I came in about unfortunately before Kobe passed. Actually, it was fortunately before Kobe passed, and this was because I used to go to swap meets.
Yeah.
I used to go to swap meets to grab toys, and I used to go, and there used to be a guy over there that would have Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh cards at the swap meet. But a very little section, he would have these sports cards, and he had a Jordan and Kobe wall. And my nephew was a huge Pokemon nut, and again before the boom as well.
Yeah.
So we used to go there, and he used to have this Topps Kobe, and that's still my favorite card to this day. A Topps Kobe 1996 rookie, 138. I know a lot of people don't like putting the number on the title, but I call it the Topps 138 Kobe rookie card. That's still my favorite card of all time. And that card was $10.
Oh,
and
wow.
mind you, that card was at this wall for like 6-7 months before I ultimately purchased it for $5. This guy has seen me, and I've spent money on my nephew buying Pokemon cards. And he finally was like, "Look, I'll just give it for $5." And I bought that for $5, and ultimately that started Dynasty Mode. I bought a couple packs, and then it went from there.
Wow. And then just talk about your famous PSA 1 Kobe that you had.
Yeah. So again, I am a big addicted nut when it comes to any sort of thing that I love. And again, the Topps Kobe 138 is a card that I cherish till this day. I went from 1 card to 2 cards, 3 cards. I go to Frankensons and bother everybody over there for that card. It didn't really matter the condition. I was just there to buy and hoard this card. And ultimately, at this moment, again, I've sold some, but at this moment, I have over 50 graded PSA Topps 138 Kobe. And I also am the proud owner of at the time of this recording, I have the top 1 PSA 1 Topps Kobe 138 rookie card.
All right. So besides basketball cards, you have a love for wrestling, right?
Huge
Huge.
fan of wrestling.
I know you have this Sting figure just standing on top of your desktop or top of your cabinet, right? Your collection.
Yeah.
So just talk about your love for wrestling, and your favorite wrestler, and all that stuff.
I mean, growing up, huge fan. I came from the Philippines at just around 5 years old, and at the time my sleeping schedule was all messed up because of the time constraint of the Philippines and the U.S. And of course, I'd watch it at 9 o'clock, and 9 o'clock was the Monday Night Wars, and that's Monday Night Raw and WCW Nitro. So when my mom would leave work, my mom till this day hates wrestling. She's actually bribed me as a kid to buy me a PlayStation 2 for me to stop watching it. And till this day, at a tender ripe age of 29, I'm still watching it religiously, and huge fan. Been a big fan ever since I was 6 years old, and went to SummerSlam recently, sat in the front row. And
you had the Dynasty Mode going.
Had the Dynasty Mode. Man, thank God no one confiscated it. So, man, it's incredible to look back and see kind of a childhood hobby and turn into. I actually got to work with a couple wrestlers on the branding standpoint. So it's been really fun. It's been really fun, and going back to it, wrestling is. I'd like to say I actually love wrestling more than basketball.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. So as far as like, hey, can I watch a basketball game entirely? Sure, I can, but I could definitely watch a pay-per-view entirely too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know you got in a basketball game. So is there a huge difference between going to an actual game and going to a wrestling event? What's the vibe like over there then? Because I know it's crazy.
I mean, I've had my fair share of going to a ton of great basketball games. About 60 pounds ago, I played basketball, so I got to play in some pretty cool, crucial games too. But there's nothing like a wrestling event, especially with a huge card, and man, it's been fun.
Okay, so who was a wrestler you loved growing up?
I mean, I hate to be generic, but The Rock was always been my favorite. I mean, the guy, growing up, I was a shy Filipino kid, and for some reason, this, Samoan dude had such pizzazz. His promos are incredible, and just gave me that sense of confidence to, not necessarily like, not necessarily be on the negative side, but also, have that confidence and being able to hold my own. As far as other guys, Randy Orton, huge fan of Randy Orton as a kid, and just liked his confidence.
So good.
Big fan of Randy, and it's crazy because back then he was like a phenom, and now he's one of the older guys. And as far as like probably one of my personal favorites still to this day is Sting.
Of course.
Hence the Sting in the rafters. Sting's my favorite, but as of recent, Adam Cole has probably been a guy that stands out that I got to watch all his matches.
So do you have any cards right now? Wrestling cards, actually?
I do. So AEW just signed with Upper Deck, and I've been buying a ton of the digital cards.
Yeah.
The CM Punk card, huge moment in wrestling history. CM Punk came back after like 7 years of not wrestling at all, and AEW came out with their digital card, and I was able to purchase a couple of them. And then Adam Cole, of course. So yeah, of course, for all the wrestling. And then of course, I don't rip as much on the basketball side, but I do rip here and there on the wrestling side. So I got a couple of the Undisputeds and things like that.
So EJ, you just recently launched Dynasty Mode website. So just talk about the process and the idea behind it, because now a lot of people are doing what you're doing right now again.
Well, I mean, it was definitely another way to showcase what we have in stock, besides asking on Instagram, hey, what do you have in stock?
Yeah.
So, and not a knock to everybody else, but my background's in design and in branding, and I wanted to make sure if I was ever doing anything in that sense of business, I wanted to have that sense of branding and just that side of aesthetics that most of the time, man, these are $10,000 cards. Dude. These are $5,000 cards. These are $1,000 cards. If you go to a clothing brand website for a $35 hat, the hat is like, like on a really good-looking model, like myself probably, but it's also in great lighting and great background. There's an aesthetic feel to it. Whereas in the card market, again, we're early in it as far as the growth of the market. But most of the time, you'll see somebody with like a $500 Trae Young rookie card, and they literally have it on their bedside, and they're taking a picture of it like with a potato. So, there's not the aesthetic side, and that's what we wanted to accomplish at Dynasty, was being able to showcase the art aspect and the beauty aspect of the designs. Because as of late, I got to actually meet some guys who were behind the design standpoint of Panini, as well as older series like Upper Deck Exquisite, shouts out Carvin, and these are guys that are looking at the aesthetical side of the business, seeing the overall, mind you, there's people that spend thousands of dollars to rip packs and rip cards, and it's actually really cool to see the design standpoint of the inserts and things like that. So that's kind of where we were at with trying to showcase what we originally have. So yes, that was the number one purpose, was to showcase what we currently have in stock, but also to kind of showcase the beauty side of the card in itself, or the piece. I like to call each card a piece, because no matter the budget of somebody, for a 13-year-old kid, a $20 to $100 card may be their best card. So that $100 card to me should be considered their art piece. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I considered it as. And of course, number 3, we talked about it, where cutting the middleman. We were able to take out. We're really blessed to grow the brand, and we don't have to necessarily use the platform of an eBay or anybody else for that matter. We do still use eBay for the lower end cards, but for the higher end cards per se, I'd like to just put it straight to the website.
Yeah, and that's like another game-changing thing you're doing, is just doing your own thing, getting away from everybody else. That's what they're trying to do, and you're just creating your own lane, basically. Yeah. And that's the craziest part of it all, is just there's levels to this.
Yeah,
there's always levels to this. And I tell you that all the time, like what you're doing is game-changing.
Yeah.
And for me, from my side, I appreciate that, because you're inspiring somebody else coming up later on in the game.
Yeah. And I think, and again, when I got back into the hobby in 2019, it really there wasn't really an aesthetical feel.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, Burbank was probably the first store that on top of my head that really built that aesthetical side and being able to create a mindset and a due diligence of being able to showcase the cards beyond just it being in a shelf.
Yeah.
So
No, I appreciate that because it's hard to actually get the side of a card. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't move or anything like that. So just being creative ways to make it, to promote it is like really huge for everybody. So moving forward, you just recently announced that you're going to drop or host a show in Newport, right?
Right.
So let's talk about that. We had Wiley here a few weeks ago, and he gave us his, his backstory and how he started. But just tell me how how the idea came.
Well, I mean, I've again, going back to the branding and the aesthetical part of the brand at Dynasty Mode, I never just wanted to put our name just to put our name.
Yeah.
You know, like I wanted it to be something that could align with our brand, and I've actually turned down a few shows that actually have asked us to be a part of it on a hosting standpoint. And with this situation, shouts out DJ, Ryan, good guys that I've known for years. And we just had a great 6 months of really kind of building it up. And again, kind of a business tip that I have for you guys that are watching is just be realistic with your goals. And there may be times where you're not going to really agree with a certain idea and things like that. And I think that's why Wiley and Alex do a great job, because they actually listen to. And again, I've been to the shows, so I see the pluses and the minuses, and hopefully I could create that with the NewPort Showcase. So the NewPort Showcase, November 13th in Newport Beach, California. We haven't came out with the flyer. We just came out with an ad as the time of this recording. But we will have the flyer out real soon, and by the time you guys are watching this, it's probably going to be near. So make sure you guys check it out. It's going to be incredible. So far, there's been incredible. Man, I did not expect that at all. I thought there was only going to be me, Pat, and maybe a couple other people sharing it. Maybe I'd have to pay Jeremy to show it. But other than that, I mean, it's I mean, just the response for it has been incredible, and that's an attest to just our brand and the team and the people that we've dealt with on the business side. So we really appreciate it, and we hope to see you there.
So speaking of Pat and everybody, the one thing I take away from you is just your relationships you're growing with everybody. You just talked about it just recently, but just talk about just the importance of networking and building relationships. Like you and Pat, you guys are like, shoot, for all I know, you guys have been best friends for years. You know, and just
which is not the case.
Yeah, but the relationship you guys have is just like, damn.
That guy's annoying. If you follow Flipstar right now, make sure you unfollow him, especially if you're not a Laker fan. But no, I've known Pat for just about 3 years, I'd say. I met him through my cousin, and Filipino parties are Filipino parties. If you've ever been, you know. If you know.
Yeah.
So, anyways, Pat was there and ended up turning into a lifelong friendship. And credit to Pat. Going back to Pat, Pat's not a businessman per se. He's not an entrepreneur, and he's a great example of somebody that may not have a background in entrepreneurship to actually be successful in this hobby. Yeah. Because Pat's at every show.
Yeah, every show.
Man, I mean, this man, he's known as the Laker auto guy from Kobe to Mark Matson. To Mark Matson to Devin George, right? So, I mean, but he's such a strong testament to just guys that leveling up, and going back to the question, the networking is key. Networking is huge. Yeah. I mean, when I first started, I'd like to say that no one knew who I was. I never wanted to tell anybody that I came from a different industry. I never wanted to be that guy, and there's guys that do that now, from the YouTube guys to, this and that and that. I like to be the type of guy where like, hey, if anything, judge me for what I'm doing for you. Don't judge me for what I've done or
exactly.
What I've accomplished and things like that. I want like the relationship that I had with you. Mm-hmm. I was like, hey, dude, like if I'm doing a transaction with you, I want it to where you have that experience with me. Yeah. Not necessarily because I'm this guy or this guy or this guy. I wanted it to where the relationship factor was huge. You know? And going back to networking, your net worth is your network, so, and I'm a college dropout, and for college dropout. Almost 12 years dropping out of school. Never had a opportunity switch on me because of my education. But I could think of countless times where it has taught me that the network and being able to understand the value of knowing who is the type of person that you should be gearing with really makes valid difference.
Yeah, and it's so good that you're saying that because when I met you, it was based off you were selling something on Facebook, and then
That's right.
That's how I met. I mean, I followed you before that. I know your personal page, but I saw you on Facebook. I messaged you. I was like, hey, blah blah blah. You're like, oh, I'll ship it to you. I was like, no, like, I want to meet you because I think we first met in Wiley show actually.
That's right.
So, me personally, I always want to ask questions, and I was afraid. I'm not,
And I ask a lot of questions too.
I asked so many questions.
That's what I love about Jeremy. He asks a ton of questions.
So
Good questions.
So I came up to you. I was nervous because I was like, man, I don't know if he's a dick or whatever.
I'm a douche.
Yeah, I didn't know because he was sitting there, and I was like, you know what? Sounds weird, but I want to shoot my shot and see how if you could give me some insight. So I came up to you. I was like, man, I'm just go up there, ask him a few questions because I was just getting into the game. And I came up to you. I was like, hey, I follow. I'm Jeremy. Blah blah blah. I'm buying this card off you. And you're like, yeah. So I asked you, can I bug you for like 5 minutes? You're like, yeah. Come sit down. I was like, wait, hold on, what? This guy is actually like bringing me in, because not a lot of people are like that. So I appreciate you, bringing me in, taking the time out.
This was at Wiley's first show,
Yeah,
right?
at the barbershop.
This was at the barbershop. Shouts out Wiley.
So
at Nostalgic and the Union. Well, kind of going back to that, I did the same thing with Coleman's cards. When we first started doing the shows, there was like 5 vendors, 5 vendors, and Coleman was the guy that had some of the biggest cards that I personally have ever seen in my life, and I did the same to Coleman. And at first I thought Coleman was this douchey, oceanside wannabe surfer. Shouts out Coleman. That's my guy. But, Coleman actually gave me about 25 minutes of free game in the hobby. Mm-hmm. And this is stuff that I already thought I knew from going to commerce and being able to sell wrestling figures and things like that. But being able to realize that, like, there was so much more to basketball cards than pumps. There was so much more to actually selling cards than actually looking at a chart and things like that. There was definitely that old school investment of actually believing in a player, believing in a card, believing in a series. That's huge. That not a lot of people talk about is believing in a Flair showcase, believing in an insert series and things like that. That's what Coleman taught me.
Yeah.
And then ultimately went from Coleman to Mark, Ultimate Pastimes Mark, and a bunch of other guys that really, I started taking, I'm a sponge.
Yeah,
I like to, take things here from this guy, and even, going back to the NewPort Showcase, I've taken a lot from a Wiley. I've taken a lot from AJ and Kobe at Premier, and, it's kind of like that.
Yeah, you got
where, and I appreciate guys like Jeremy, who's, technically a newer guy in the industry, and being able to actually have the confidence to ask me for advice, because I was once that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I appreciate that because I asked other people, I'm not going to name any names, but they're a little douchey. They weren't really trying to support me or anything, but whatever, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is just putting yourself out there, just learning from other people, asking questions, taking it in, like you said, like a sponge, and then flipping it to where it benefits you.
Yeah, and let me add something to that too, is that, there's douchey guys out there, and I'd like to say there's a few people that think I'm douchey, which is probably true, but at the same time, don't take a no personally. If you're gonna get a trade, there's 40 vendors. At least one person's gonna look at your card.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? So if you come out there and you give some asking advice, you ask for advice, some guy's probably not gonna have time because guess what? It's his business time, right? Now, I'd like to say I'm one of the nicer guys in the hobby, so I'll give it a good 5 minutes and I'll just take your time from there.
And that's one thing a lot of people appreciate about you is you're welcoming. You know what I mean? You're funny. You're always cracking jokes. I'll just give you a quick example. When you did we were at the end of the Pachanga show. There was a speed chase going on. You're like, Wiley, did you pay this? Like, and everybody was just like, I guess you just being yourself and being genuine draws people in.
Yeah, I mean, being yourself, being genuine, and again, I have a lot of fun in the hobby.
always.
A ton of fun. I mean, if you follow the Dynasty Mode page, I mean, yes, there's cards in there, but I'd like to say that like 33% of the time I'm just making fun of Pat.
Yeah, bring
You know,
the shirt.
It's the shirt. Yeah, shouts out to the shirt. It's sold out, which is insane. But yeah, I mean, it's just being personable, and you know, my favorite thing in the hobby is being able to meet guys that, you know, this is a pretty nerdy thing to do in the hobby if you really think about it. It's kind of on the nerdier side.
That's what we were talking about.
Yeah, it's the nerdier side. Even my wife just does not understand this, you know, and
same here.
and
Same here.
just doesn't understand this, and again, this comes from my basketball background, and even basketball players who I've got to know and have a great fortune of knowing in the NBA and all over the you know, different pro sports realm, they think some of this is really stupid.
Trust me, I hear the same thing.
But at the same time, it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun, and guess what? A few guys that are actually in the NBA collect till this day. And there's more guys coming in every day. I mean, yes, there's the financial part of the investment side and things like that, but at the end of the day, I get why guys rip packs. I get why guys go and fly out to the Nationals to buy a Don Nelson autograph. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's guys out there that just like to collect. There's a guy in Dallas who I met, and he literally collects absurd autographs. And I had a Steve Blake Maryland auto. I have no idea how I got it. No idea. He offered $10 for that Steve Blake because it was on card, and for some reason I found out through him that Steve Blake doesn't sign as much.
Oh, wow.
So that's how I found out about it. And, you know, there's guys out there that do that, but it's for fun. It's not because of the comps that Steve Blake comps. It's not because of that. It's not because of that. It's because it's fun.
Yeah.
You know, so going back to the personal side, I mean, I love seeing guys who may not be as personable, and then within like 3 months, they're like, yo, let's go to trade night. You know, let's go here, let's go there. You know, so it's beyond business, and I'd like to say that, you know, when you're having fun and if you're good at it, the money's going to come.
Yeah, so one thing is, you've been going out to different places for shows.
Yes.
You went to the Bay, you went to Dallas, you went to the National. Just talking about this branching out, because, you know, the LA area is big right now. So just going to different areas, just promoting yourself. Just talk about that.
Well, first off, if you live in the LA area, you're probably in the hotbed of the sports card market. Mm-hmm. You're probably, especially even if you live in Orange County, you're about 40-minute drive from Burbank Sports Cards, which I've traveled quite a bit. There's not a lot of card shops like Burbank. I'd like to say there's even none, right? Where you could actually go here and buy, sell, and trade your stuff and being able to come here. But Southern California, in my opinion, is definitely the hottest bed at the moment. I mean, I'd like to say that maybe Texas and Chicago are probably up there too. But the importance of going to a Dallas card show and going to a Nationals is probably the game changer for us as a brand, because we were able to network.
Yep.
You know, we were able to, yes, the deals made sense, but we were also able to buy cards that we weren't getting here. You know, a Laker auto in Chicago isn't worth much as it is here.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So the business aspect of it was huge for us. And of course, the legitimacy of building the brand, going to all over, you know, Arizona, Dallas, Chicago. You know, next year, 2021, we'll be going to quite a bit of shows. So catch us at your local spot.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, is evolving. You know, not a lot of people are just trying to stay in LA, but you know, you're giving out the blueprint of going like, you go out there, go out here, and that way you can build yourself, your brand, like you're saying.
I'd like to say it's also the drive factor, not driving too, but it's also the drive factor. There's not a lot of people that take business seriously or even a side hustle seriously. I'm that type of person that if you have an ounce of success, an ounce of a chance of success, I'm going to do it 110%.
Exactly.
And I'm going to be obsessed with it. I told my wife, who recently just quit her job of 13 years, hey, if you're doing this, you have to be obsessed.
Yeah.
The 40 hours is measly compared to the 80 to 120 hours you're going to spend.
Exactly.
You know, and that's why I appreciate you know, because you're the guy that has a 9-to-5 right now. But being able to be like, yo, you don't have to be here.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? And that's what I look up to the most, are the guys that actually have a 9-to-5 on top of this.
Yeah.
You know, and that's something to commend. And again, man, I really, really appreciate, you know.
Yeah, I know. I appreciate you a lot, because you doing this, you know, not having a 9-to-5, like you said, is inspiring for me, because I'm like, man, this guy's making a full-time job, and that's what everybody wants to do, is trying to make their side hustle to their full-time job, to being happy. Because just to give you a quick example, I went to Pechanga last week. spend maybe 15, 16 hours. I'm talking about the drive, coming back, blah, blah, blah. But the whole thing is, when I came back, I felt good. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, damn, this is nothing compared to, like, if I went to work the next day, 12-hour shift. It's totally different.
Yes.
You're enjoying the process. You're enjoying everything. You're not mad that you got stuck in traffic, blah, blah, blah. You're just being happy. And that's the one thing people don't realize, is that do something that makes you happy, and you'll be surprised the opportunity that's going to come out of it.
Yes, exactly. And again, perfect example is you driving that, spending that 12 to 16 hours, going to and from Pechanga. But at the same time, you got to network your butt off. Yep. You got to you're becoming more relatable, as well as a face.
Exactly.
And I think that's the I'd like to call it the sweat equity. There's a lot of people that consider equity as just financial and money, but realistically, the sweat equity is what's going to capitalize. It's going to go from there. Where a lot of people see me at shows, and it becomes a familiar face. Yeah. And you become a familiar brand, and then you start dealing with them. I could attest that the first 3 months of doing shows, I used to have a goal of how much money I got to make.
Yeah, me too.
And then I literally threw that away, and I think my goal now is at least 10 new transactions a show.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter if it's a $1 card. It doesn't matter if it's a $1,000 card. I got to get to at least 10 new transactions. And sometimes I get up in my booth, and I try to shake everybody's hand. I try to introduce myself to a couple people. And yes, there's a couple guys that aren't as social. And I actually got that from Mark and Wiley. And these are two guys from your show, and guys I look up to as well. And being able to build that transaction. That sweat equity and that transactional value is huge, and I commend that for you, man. And that pays off because now you're becoming more of a familiar face.
Exactly, just putting yourself out there, taking that chance, right? Yes. That's the biggest thing. Just because you again now having 9 to 5, which is like I said, you inspire me because you're doing what you want to do, but just taking that chance. Everybody's so afraid. I was afraid to do this. You know what I mean? Because I don't know what's gonna happen, but I was like, what, forget it. Let me just do it. Put 110%, like you said. And then watch everything fall into place.
And mark my word, this is what is it? I'm episode 4.
Yeah, 4.
I'm episode 4. At episode 45, you're gonna have a couple guys that are gonna hit you up. You know what I'm saying? And you're gonna start familiar. My favorite part in business and success is when you're familiar and you become familiar. When you become consistent, your sweat equity grows.
Yeah.
And don't get it twisted. I have a 24/7. I don't have a 9 to 5. I'm working every day. Right?
Every day.
This is sports cards. A lot of people think I do this full time. This is like my 3rd full-time job.
And that's the thing we talked about. Yeah.
And it's kind of my biggest thing, and being able to realize that the value of sports cards is huge. Yeah. Right? But being able to dissect that is bigger than it is too.
So EJ, you've been in the hobby for a minute already. What's the biggest advice you had got from somebody so far?
The biggest advice I've gotten, honestly, is just to level up every day. Whether that's studying a trend that hasn't been made yet, whether that's studying a 90s insert collection. I think an underrated topic right now is fake cards and being able to study autographs. Especially Kobe autographs, there's a ton of early 2000s UD fakes out there, so be sure you do your research. But leveling up in business, leveling up in how to do deals, the psychology of buying, which I've studied for years, and I'd like to say I pride myself in being able to buy stuff that not a lot of people really look at. Most of the time they look at a base, and they look at this, and they look at what's popular now. I like to pride myself in buying things that is a curated piece for Dynasty. And that's the advice that I probably could give, is level up. And even if you go to a show and you don't spend any money, that's leveling up. Because you're technically not spending money that you need to spend, right? Yeah. And it's also, it's okay to go to a card shop and not buy anything. Now, it's not okay if you're there for 7 months straight and you're not buying anything. That's on you. But, of course, there's times where you're not going to like anything. There's a strategy behind it. I have a good friend, Abi. Shouts out to Abi. He goes to card shops, and he's a high-end guy. He's more high-end. But I like his style because he's very strategic with what he buys. He buys stuff that don't necessarily have comps. Low-numbered stuff that if a guy who's going to buy it is an investor, not a guy who's a flipper. You know, and that's one guy that I look up to, and on a sense of business, and you know, on a sense of leveling up. I mean, there's definitely the educational part of it, like I mentioned, but there's also the networking, like we both talked about.
Yeah.
The networking is like, hey, I'm going to introduce myself to 20 new people a show. You know, every day, level up. Even if you have a 9 to 5, check out a YouTube channel. Check out this. You know, do this. Listen to Rob. You know, give out his daily free game on the Burbank Instagram.
Yeah.
You know, things like that. You know.
Like you said, you had strategy going to shows. So you're always at this. You always have a table.
Yes.
But when you're out there, just like, you know, don't have a table, you're actually gonna go buy. Do you have a strategy going in, or you're just buying just to buy for the website for inventory?
No, of course. My strategy is pretty simple. Number one, I have a priority list. So that priority list changes per week. The past 3 months, it's been Hall of Fame autos. It's been a lot of RPAs of guys that are tweener. Perfect example, Nikhil Alexander Walker.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect example. He averaged 12 a game. I know Devontae Graham is with the Pelicans, but he's a perfect example of a guy who's a tweener, new guy who could potentially, you know, do really well this season. So those are my strategies, and of course, raw cards. I've been the dubbed
Raw
God, and
Yeah.
I didn't call myself that. So for the fact checkers out there, but you know, I realized that there was a stagnant in PSA grades, and again, nothing against PSA. Dude, my favorite card's a PSA 1 Kobe, Topps rookie. But at the same time, if we're talking on a business sense, raw cards is definitely a perfect way to get into the industry without being handed in with the PSA grades and things like that.
Yeah, because I remember you go to Jimmy's and just buy tons of raw.
Yes.
Yeah, crazy.
Yes. And that's another tip is you could start with like $10.
Yeah.
I personally started with $100. And rest in peace, Tim. He was one of the vendors at Jimmy's. And I came to Jimmy and I came to Jimmy's and I saw Tim. And I was very honest with Tim. I was like, hey, Tim, here's $100. You mind if I stack some stuff because I'm looking to start selling on eBay to fund this new hobby of mine. And where a lot of vendors would take that as a offense, Tim literally gave me, and mind you, this was before the boom, and my strategy was 90s players, which was, players who are all-stars and Hall of Famers who are very underrated, and Ray Allen, Allen Iverson, Stephon Marbury, and guys from the 96 class was my goal. And looking back, Tim, after grading fees and stuff, Tim probably, out of that $100 that I spent with Tim, it was over $5,000 in cards. Probably a little bit more than that because I was getting Stardate Iversons for like $2.
Yeah, I remember.
And man, rest in peace, Tim. We miss you, man. And one of my favorite cards is in my collection. May not be worth much to some, but I PC Kobe, and the card was a Panini Crusade Kobe with the wings. 2012.
Yeah, of course.
And I found that off of Tim's last box when he passed. A vendor out at Jimmy's inherited it. And he knew I was a big Kobe fan and knew that I was a friend of Tim's. So he gave me the box, and he basically just said, just pay me $1 per card. And then in that box was a Panini Crusade Kobe, which I think now goes for around $200-300.
Yeah.
PSA
10. Yeah, I was looking into that.
Crazy card. I mean, to be able to find that card after he passed was definitely a sentimental moment for me. So that's definitely a card that I'm going to cherish forever.
So going back to Jimmy's, you and me know Ted. You introduced me to Ted, actually. Yeah. I just want to talk about the relationships that you built. I mean, with Mark, Wiley, but the low-key guys, Ted, because when you introduced me to him, that guy has so much knowledge and everything. So let's talk about that. Well, just the low-key guys. You know,
the relationship value is huge. I mean, even at Burbank, this is a spot where a lot of guys cash out their cards and being able to trade up and things like that. But going back to other vendors that you may not know, it's kind of a special, like, you don't have this plug, like, type of vibe. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Ted's the type of guy where he doesn't really trust a lot of guys, but when you're in his trust value, he's a valuable asset for your business.
Exactly.
He's the type of guy that will buy cards in bulk that you may not want to move. because it's going to take 6 months for you to move, whereas with him it'll take a couple weeks. And he'll be able to pay you for the bulk cars that you don't want.
Yeah.
You know, that's incredible. He's paying $500 to $1,000. You can use that $1,000 and move it to an actual big piece.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? So guys like, and I met Ted because I just had that goal of introducing myself to everybody in the vendor or in the event. So I met Ted through that, and so that's why I said, hey, you know, being able to network is huge. Mark, again, perfect example, but also being able to have retaining value of customers and dealers, and be able to realize, hey, look, you know, that guy is this guy for this, and one of the strategies I have for buying is I already buy for potential customers that I have. So when I look at a car and I already know, like with him, Kyrie Irving is your guy. So I buy Kyrie with the sense of knowing, oh, hey, Jeremy may want this. You know, so that's kind of my strategy behind that.
Yeah, and then just finishing off, just the biggest tip. I mean, you've been giving a lot of free game, but
ton of free game. You guys need to hit my PayPal, donate. No,
but what's the biggest advice you would give? I guess for example, Andrew, he's slowly getting him in.
Guys, yes.
Yeah. So what would be the biggest thing?
First off, don't listen to Flipstar Collection. That's number one. Number two, just. I mean, Mark says it all the time, buy what you like. It's getting annoying now, Mark. All right, I know you trademarked it. Sell what you like. But no, it's basically, man, if you're new in the hobby, figure out some of your, that's one thing. You know, that is one thing. Because when I first started, I made a list of cards that I wanted.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm talking about on the collecting standpoint. So put Topps Chrome LeBron in there, even if you have $10. And then figure out
how to get
there. That's probably one of my favorite business tips is now granted you have to have some sort of attainable goal, like realistic goal.
Yeah.
But I'm also that type of person where it's like, dude, here, I'm gonna make X amount of money my first year doing cards.
Yeah.
And then you figure out, how can I do that? Do I need to go on Whatnot? Do I need to do Facebook Razzes? Do I need to do Facebook hotspots and fire sales and things like that? Do I need to go to a show? Do I need to make sure you budget that, and make sure you put everything on paper, even if it's a transaction that's off Excel sheet. Have an Excel sheet, have a spreadsheet, and being able to go by numbers, because what's not measured will not get conquered. So understand that value of being able to measure everything and strategically having in your head that, like, hey, if it's over comp on this, maybe it's worth it to buy the card because it's not going to be on eBay. You know, so there's things like that. So for the new guys, you know, be sure to have that list and being able to do that. When I first started my Kobe rookie collection,
you had a channel for, a video.
I had a video for it of the complete set, and I had a spreadsheet, and I looked at that every day. Every day, you know, so being able to look at that goal sheet and being able to understand, and of course be a sponge, you know, learn every day, learn the series. Not everything it has to be a Prism, you know what I'm saying, but I love Prism. But yeah, I mean, being able to look at all the series and being able to look at that, I think it's valuable.
All right, cool. There you have it. EJ came in, bought a lot of stuff, told some great stories, even gave some free game. Make sure you guys follow EJ at Dynasty Mode. Anything else?
Hey, thanks everybody for tuning in. Thank you so much everybody at Burbank, OG Cart, Father, John, first off the line, everybody here, man. Always love and respect with everybody out here. And hey, thank you so much for tuning in. Jeremy's doing some crazy work. Be sure to check him out. Episode 99 is going to be crazy.
And don't forget his show on November 13th, NewPort Showcase, right?
NewPort Showcase, November 13th. Pull up Newport Beach. Check us out.